welcome, fellow yoga teachers and those of you who are interested in maybe teaching yoga one day. In today's video, I want to explain you how I approach sequencing and what is the basic framework that we use here at Yoga on the Move and teach in our teacher trainings to our yoga teachers to be. So teaching a sequence in Vinyasa Yoga can be a challenging task as there is an immense amount of freedom. Yet there is something that we want to give you to make or create more clarity for yourself and make this experience of the yoga class holistic to your students. We work here at Yoga on the Move with the arc of sequencing. So you can think of your sequence like a journey, like a ride you take your students on, like climbing a mountain. So you would not start with the steepest peak at the right in the beginning, but rather start slow, starting with a little warm-up, giving your students time to drop into their bodies and arrive in the space, the present moment, and then progressing slowly as you reach the peak, and then giving them also time to enjoy the view on the top of the mountain, and then bringing them slowly back down, bringing them back home with a nice cool down and shavasana. So let's dive a little bit more into the details here. So as I said, let's think of our sequence like a little ride that we take our students on, starting slow and easy, and then progressing gradually with the intensity over time until we reach the little peak in intensity, giving them time there to enjoy it, and then slowly progressing back down, cooling the body down smoothly with some counter poses, finishing and shavasana. So really literally thinking of this little arc when you sequence your classes. So let's dive into the little stations along this arc in depth. The arrival moment. Arrival moment is an important moment for your class to introduce your theme, but also give your students time to arrive in their bodies and in the present moment. Often they come from a busy day, so just keep in mind, be compassionate with your students to really give them the appropriate amount of time to arrive and to connect to their breathing. So doing a very simple breathing exercise can be great here, a simple meditation. So keep it simple and easy for your students to drop in. Then from there, we want to progress into the warm-up. As you probably already know, what you are best you know, what you want to do for the peak and the rest of your class, warm up the necessary joints, but also create stability. So really focusing on core engagement and teaching techniques, foreshadowing what you want to do in the class later. So foreshadowing is also essential here in the warm-up. So for example, you have a special arm variation in this later part in your class. This would be the moment to introduce. It is also a great moment to introduce techniques for chaturangas or downward facing dog. Continuing with the sun salutes, we put this into a separate category because we like to have them to create this meditative way of movements and never skip them. So it is a nice anchor for your students that they know something and there is something familiar with to them, as Vinyasa tends to be creative. So there is always something they recognize within your sequence and they feel comfortable in. Further then, we continue with standing postures and the balancing postures. There you can be really creative, weaving them into flow, maybe adding on to your sun salutes or doing a ladder flow where you start simple and progress, adding one pose with each round. So feel free to be creative there, but still keeping your intention in mind and your peak. So where are you working towards? What is the direction that you want to go to? So for example, if your peak pose is an arm balance, make sure to not tire up your students before you even get to the peak. So be smart about maybe skipping chaturangas now and then to save the energy so they are able to actually do the peak pose in all their strength. Once the body is nice and warmed up and you got some dynamic motion going, breath and movement are in connection, you can pause the class and give them a little moment to explore a peak posture. This can be a very physical asana, a challenging asana, that you want to teach at that day, but it could also work with an energetic peak, just the most intense part of your class. You could also include partner work here or demoing with the student in front of everybody. So really feel free to take more time here so your students have the time it needs to understand the technique. After that, slow it down again. The deepening postures are great to really deepen the body's experience, so we can use the heat that we built earlier in class to go into deeper back bends, deeper hip openers, and deeper twists, like Hanumanasana or other postures that are quite deep and intense and you would never do in the beginning. This is the moment where you can include them beautifully into your class. From there, we progress further, cooling the body down. I like to work a lot with counter postures. Counter postures are, for example, when you did arm balancing all class long, pressing, 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 you want to do stretching the chest. So counterbalancing what you've done here in that first section of class. Once you cool down more, you can include your finishing postures. For me, that is normally a back bend, then lifting the feet up in an inversion and slowing it down completely with a reclined twist. I usually keep the finishing quite simple and similar in every class, also for my students to have something they are familiar with. And in the Shavasana, of course, you keep it silent. You give them 10% of your class should be dedicated to this final relaxation. So meaning when you have a 60-minute class, 6 minutes are in Shavasana. After that, of course, you bring them back and you conclude with some nice words, maybe setting an intention for the rest of the day. And I think working with this sequencing arc will make your classes balanced, holistic, and just a great experience for your students, what they will definitely enjoy and they will definitely come back to. So enjoy your teaching. If you want to learn more about sequencing, feel free to join us at our teacher trainings here at Yoga on the Move, or just look up more videos with us here on YouTube or on Instagram.